Okay, so in this video, I'm going to do a brief explanation of the user interface and the operating menu. So let's take a look at the display first here. The beautiful thing about the ATRIS system is that it has a high base level magnification and a very generous 9-degree field of view. And we wanted to design a display that would really enhance the user's experience and not crop the display like you see in some of the competitive circular displays, but to maximize the real estate to increase situational awareness for the user. And so this is our ViewMax display. Just extremely generous, takes advantage of the entire inherent field of view of the device. We do have two status bars visually available to give you all of the data that you need while using the scope and nothing that you don't. Up at the top, let's take it from left to right. The first thing you'll see is the word scan. Now, this recording is being made from the laser version of the ATRIS 650. There is a non-laser version, and so the word scan or that symbol next to it, LRF, would not appear, as well as the yardage would not appear on the standard model. But so those are indications for you to take a look at, and I'll show you how that works in just a minute. And of course, you've got a time indicator at the top right. Down at the bottom, you've got an indicator of what your magnification is. Again, the base level magnification is 3.5, but when you digitally zoom up, you'll notice that the magnification level will be apparent there for you as well. Now, the digital zoom on this goes up to 14, and we cap it at 14 because in all of our testing, we have determined that the image quality becomes a little too pixelated beyond 14. And I know a lot of companies set a higher level in their devices, but that's done for marketing reasons, and that's just not how we roll here. If you look next to the magnification, you'll see the gun profile indicator. There are 5 different gun profiles that you can use. We'll go through those in a minute, but right now it's set on G1. And then the Z number. This is an indicator and a reminder just so you can remember what the zero distance is for this gun profile. So currently G1 is set to 100 yards. And again, you can set that to anything you want, and I'll show you that in a minute. Then you have RAV, which stands for Recoil Activated Video Recording. There's no white line through it, so that indicates that it is active, which means when your gun is fired, this thing will save a video clip from 10 seconds before the shot to 10 seconds after. Next to it is the microphone. You can see there's no white line through it, so it's going to record audio when you record your video. And then currently you can see that the Wi-Fi symbol has a white line through it. It means the Wi-Fi is currently off. And then we have the color palette indicator. White, WHD stands for white. We have white hot, we have black hot, we have red, green, gold, and violet. And those colors are accessed through a hot button on the keypad on the eyepiece. And what's interesting is we allow you to turn off some of those colors just in case you find that using them are not of interest to you and you just don't want them in your way. And then there's a battery icon. When you first put in a hot battery, it'll show in blue. As it starts to run down, or it'll turn to white and give you a current indication of how much battery reserve you have. This is a huge battery in the ATRIS, so you've got an enormous runtime. Your days worrying about battery are pretty much over when you use the ATRIS. And of course, the current time, which is in the American Standard. Okay, so let's go back up to the top. I want to go through the laser function. So there is a dedicated laser button on the device. It is the primary feature of the laser version, and so we didn't want to share the button with anything else. We wanted to make it standalone. There are two words that will appear, either scan, or if we give it the button a long press, it'll change to ballistic. Now, essentially, those words are going to tell you what happens when you give the laser button a quick press. So if it's in scan mode and you give it a quick press, the laser will activate. You see the icon turns red. It stays red while the laser is emitting. And as you scan your field of targets, it will update the distance multiple times per second. It has an extremely powerful and extremely fast laser in the ATRIS. A quick press will turn it off. Now, the laser, how long it activates in scan mode is determined by the menu setting. You can have it run for a specific period of time, or you can set it to run continuous. We don't really recommend continuous for safety reasons, but if you insist, there is an option for you. And of course, the distance to the target will display there in the middle. Now, if you give it a long press, you'll go over to ballistic mode. Now, in ballistic mode, the laser will activate until a target is registered. Think of it as like a single pulse or a single emission with the laser. It'll register one distance to one target, and then a reticle will appear, and you can see our red chevron dot reticle has appeared in the view. And that will, if you have ballistic data entered into the scope, that reticle will drop down and give you a specific aiming point for the target that you just lased. Okay, another long press puts it back to scan mode. All right, let's go ahead and enter the menu. We're very proud of this menu system. It is completely Americanized. Unlike our competitors that sell all over the world to people that speak multiple languages, that are forced out of necessity to use symbols and icons that make their menus extremely confusing, you'll see that we have it Americanized, all in English. And we've organized this menu quite nicely for you to make it easy to navigate. Okay, so a long press of the button at the top of the scope on the encoder is what opened up the menu. If you want to enter any specific menu, like profile here, you would simply give it a quick press, and up comes the submenus below it. Now, a long press backs you out of the current submenu. Another long press makes the menu disappear. Okay, so long press, up comes the main menu, and we have profiles. This is where you can choose one of 5 different gun profiles. I'll explain that a little more in just a second. This is the zeroing submenu, where you zero the scope and you assign all of your ballistics, etc. The reticle options, the Wi-Fi, turn it on or off, and manage passwords. The files, this is where you would go in and manage all of your photo and video files. We have a really cool system. All of your general settings. This is where you set all your individual preferences for how you use the scope. The image, this is where you can go in and change some of the underlying settings of the thermal sensor to create an image that makes it look more suitable to your liking and or your environmental conditions. And we'll look at that in a minute. And of course, system, this is where you go in and look at software versions. You can do the updates. You can set time and date information. All right, let's take a look at profiles. Now, we've put a lot of effort into giving the user good, usable information in our profiles. Having multiple profiles is not unique to us, but the way we display it is really cool. So in gun profile 1, I have this set up. You can see the zero distance of that profile is 100 yards. The gun that it assigned to is a 5.56, and you have 8 characters here to create your own label, and I'll show you how to do that. And if there's left, right, or up, down adjustment values, those will appear there where the numbers are in those far right columns. Okay, now remember, a long press is what exits us back. Go down to the zeroing function. We'll enter that. And the first one that comes up is your distance. Now, a quick press, and up come the adjustment arrows, and you can sight this, you can set a 0 for whatever you like. If you want 25 yards, 50 yards, the default is 100. We just put it at 100 because in America, that's kind of the starting point for most folks. But you can choose whatever you want. That's simply a label, and you can it'll appear there as a reference for you. Now, I already have a gun assigned into the library, but let's enter that, and you'll see the 5.56 is part of the library. But when you first get your scope, the only thing you're going to see here is Add New. And this is where, when you enter that, you can go in and create any gun nickname that you desire. So if you, for instance, want to create one for a 6mm, let's do it real quick. Go to Caps, C, M. So let's just say this is for my 6mm Creedmoor, and I've created that. And if I want to assign that to this gun profile, then I would simply just go in and select that. Okay. Of course, if you made a mistake or want to change something, you can always delete it out. All right. Okay. So long press, we'll back out. Actually, let's go back and reassign that to our 5.56 so you can see how easily that is done for you to change between the two. If you go down to 0, it's going to ask you to confirm that your target distance is 100 yards. Now, you can actually shoot and start your zeroing process at any target distance that you want. If you want to start at 25 yards and then go to 50 and then back up to 100, that's cool. But it's just reminding you that you're sighting this profile in for 100 yards, and it's asking you to confirm that. And this is your zeroing screen. This is actually where you're going to shoot from. And it's got a lot of handy functionality. You can hit the back button to get out without changing anything. You can come down to save and exit. So if you're done and you want to save your information and exit the screen, you can do that. If you want to save what you've currently done but stay on this screen, you can hit save and stay. Of course, we've got a freeze function that is absolutely killer. I know a lot of free functions and a lot of scopes are a nightmare to use. This one is so simple to use. Simply, you highlight it, you give it a quick press, up come the adjustment arrows, and with a simple roll of the encoder, you can put it on your target and freeze the screen. Makes freezing on the right spot really, really simple. Okay. Now, we'll have a video on zeroing the scope in detail, but this is just a little highlight. We also allow you, if you want to freeze it and then zoom up on the target to make your adjustments easy to do, you can do that. And honestly, we've seen a lot of competitive products that their zoom features don't hold true zero, and ours does. It's a really handy feature. And of course, like I said before, everything is Americanized. It's left, right, up, down. You simply just highlight by a quick press, get the adjustment arrows, make an adjustment, come down. You can adjust to anything you like. Get that 0 on so you can see. Actually, let's make a big adjustment here. You can see how the crosshair moves. And then we give it a quick press, make the adjustment arrows go away. We hit save and stay. We see the reticle makes a nice move to the new position. That all looks good. We shoot it again, confirms. Boom, hit save and exit. Okay, so we're out. Now we'll go down to ballistics. So if you have a laser operated scope, it comes inherent with ballistics. And you have picture-in-picture with BDC. So in other words, if you activate picture-in-picture and this setting is on, and again, you can turn it off, but if this one is on, the reticle that you're going to use to long-range shooting will be displayed in the picture-in-picture field. If it's off, it will not, and only be displayed in the main field. Data, this is where you put in all of your ballistic data. And you can see we have all of the usual suspects. If you've done any long-range shooting, this is the information that's needed. The scope height over bore, the bullet weight, the muzzle velocity, the drag model. We offer multiple. G1 is the default, but G7 is in there too. This is where you put your BDC. And of course, the environmentals, temperature and pressure. This is the kind of the US standard for ballistic models, but you can go in and change it to whatever temperature you want or any barometric pressure that you want. And that's all done by tapping it out on the keypad on the side. So you can enter any one of those. Let's go to BDC, BC for instance. So we come down and let's do 0.52 and enter that information. And there it is. Okay. If you make a mistake, you can always delete that out. Delete and come down to enter. Long press to exit. Put that back in. Okay, so when the cursor goes away, you know you can make an adjustment and then end up at save and exit. Now, the other way to do this is to do it from your phone app, and it's a lot easier than trying to tap out. But if you're in the field and don't have your phone handy, you can always just tap it out directly from the screen. Save and exit. Okay, so that's the ballistic submenu inside the zeroing function. We'll give it a long press. We'll exit that. Go down to Reticle, take a look. All right, now you've got 10 different reticle options. Actually, 9 different reticles and a 10th no reticle. So if you want to enter that with a quick press, you can roll through and see all of your different reticle options. And there is your 10th. So if you want to use this solely as a observation device, you can do that with setting number 10. And I'll just choose one. That's my favorite here. Come down to color. Now you can choose the reticle color that you like as well. So if you want it red, green, blue, black, back to white, quick press, adjustment arrows go away, go down to brightness, quick press. You can adjust the brightness of the reticle. There are 3 intensity settings. The default is the brightest, which is 3. And the reason I chose this reticle is because it actually is one of ours that has an illuminated dot in the center. And we give you the ability to change the color of the dot. So if you want it black, white, blue, green, or red, you can simply change it there. Now this next feature is really interesting. Occasionally you have somebody that has a Picatinny rail that is not well aligned with the bore of their gun. And when they sight it in, we get a reticle that is dramatically out of position. In the standard mode of move, essentially when you move the reticle to your zeroing place, that's it. It stays there and lives there. But if visually you have to move it so much that it's bothersome, that you just don't like the way it looks because it's too high or too left or too right, etc. You can use this next feature called center, and it will recenter the reticle in the view for you. Now, if it's dramatically out of center, the centering feature is going to adjust the digital magnification to a level necessary to make that happen. So if you use the center feature for a reticle that is dramatically out of position and it recenters it for you, your new base level magnification may be something like 3.6 or 3.7, something different than the normal base level of 3.5. But certainly a way to fix that problem should you need it. And the truth is, maybe 1% of users will need that, but there is an option there for you. And then the mode of the reticle is whether you want the reticle to magnify, in other words, to mimic a first focal plane reticle, or if you want the reticle to stay static, non-magnifying, which is the second focal plane. Then reversal, some of our reticles, if you activate reversal, will actually flip its color from white to black, depending on the color intensity or the background intensity of the target that you're aiming at. So if you've got a really dark target, it will flip the reticle from black to white to allow you to have good contrast against the target. It's a very advanced feature and pretty cool. A lot of advanced users tell us they like the reversal feature because it allows them to more effectively lead running targets. Okay, we'll just leave reversal on. And then ballistics, if you activate the ballistic function on the LRF scope, and I will give the ballistic button a long press, which will change it from scan mode to ballistic mode, and you'll notice that a new reticle has appeared. That is your aiming reticle for ballistics. Now, it didn't drop down because I don't have any ballistic data saved, but the point here is that you have some options on how you want that reticle to appear. If you want your ballistic reticle to be a chevron dot, which is the default, an X as you see it here, a small cross, or another dot that would appear below your main dot, you can choose, and you have some options. And of course, as you saw there as well, there was a color option. Okay, moving down to Wi-Fi. When you enter this is simply where you can turn it on or off. You can change the password from its default if you want. Most people just leave it at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Files. Now, I'm not going to enter files because it'll kill the recording of this video. But files feature is really cool with our company. This is where you can go in and look at your photo files, your video files, or your RAW files. And you can watch them through the scope. You can delete them. You can delete all of them. It gives you a way to kind of, in the field, look at your files very, very easily through the scope. A really nice feature. Go down to settings. This is, of course, where you would find all of the main settings of the device. If you get a blind pixel that occurs, you can enter this. We have really clear instructions on how to remove any blind pixels and to recalibrate those pixels. Or cancel. And then we'll long press to get out. Nuke. This is your sensor recalibration. It is set to automatic. If you want to turn it off and just make it to manual, you can do that. There is a C button on the hotkey on the eyepiece that allows you to manually nuke it if you want. Most folks just leave it in automatic. The laser, this is where you would control the scan time of the laser. So when it's in scan mode and you give it the laser button a quick press, this determines how long it runs. You can set it to continuous, 90 seconds, 60 seconds, 30 seconds. The default is 60 seconds. This is probably a good happy medium. If you insist on continuous, that's fine, but just be mindful that it's not the safest setting to be had. Auto shutdown, of course, you can set this to turn the device off if it senses no activity. The default is off, so set that accordingly. Record. This is where you can turn on or off whether you want the audio to record with your video, if you want the logo, our company logo, to record. We really like it when you leave that on. And then, of course, the date, which will appear at the bottom left. If you want to record the date, that's fine. Hot tracking, this is kind of a legacy feature, but if you activate this, there'll be a small square box that will display and show you the hottest portion of the scene. so your eye can easily find what that is. The RAV, this is where you turn it on or off and adjust the sensitivity. Now, this recoil activated video recording is based on sound. So depending on the gun that you're shooting and whether it's suppressed or how well it's suppressed or not, you may need to adjust the sensitivity, and you can do that right there. Color, this is where you can turn on or off the color palettes that you may or may not want to use. If you don't like the gold, for instance, you can turn that off. Okay. Display. The brightness of the display. Now, the truth is, a quick press of the encoder button allows you to change the brightness and the contrast very quickly without adjusting it from the menu. But if you want a more permanent solution, you can adjust the brightness here by rolling it down. And 5 is the default. We'll put that back. Now, this is an interesting feature. There are some people that experience a lot of eye fatigue, and so we give you the ability to adjust the hue of the display pixels. The default is gray, but if you roll it to blue or purple or red, you might find a display setting that is better for your eye and causes less eye fatigue. The digital magnification of this scope is controlled one of two ways. We do have the newer, more preferred kind of modern smooth zoom, but if you want it to be in steps, you can choose rapid, and that will control how the digital zoom operates. This is an interesting feature. So traditionally, if you want to activate video recording, you would long press the video record button. If you wanted to take a photo, you would quick press the record button. But some of the newer models on the market have that reversed because a lot of people don't take a lot of photos anymore. They only take videos, and they would prefer the quick press to activate video. So if that's your preference, you can just simply roll that to there, and if you activate it that way, when you quick press the camera button, it will start your video. Of course, Imperial is the only thing that we do because we're Americans. And then settings reset. If you want to reset the default settings of the device back to their factory defaults, you can press yes here. Doing so does not wipe out your zeros or your gun profiles. It just brings things like what colors you have selected back to the default setting. It changes the laser runtime back to its default setting. All of those kind of camera button settings, all of those things are returned to their default. Okay, so that's your settings. We'll come down to image. Now, this is where the user can control the underlying settings of the sensor. This is not display settings. This is sensor settings. So if you want to manipulate brightness, if you want to manipulate contrast, the sharpness of the image, how much noise is in the image, or we have a couple of quick sets. So we have a standard mode and then an enhanced mode. The enhanced mode is used primarily for extremely adverse conditions such as smoke, fog, or heavy rain. And essentially what it does is just juices the sensor a lot to try and cut through some of that more effectively. But most of the time you'll run on standard mode. Okay, let's take a look at the system submenu. We'll give it a quick press to enter. And as you can see, this is where you can set the time of the device. It's exactly what in the format that you would expect. You can go to each of those and set them. And of course, you can roll down to date, do the same thing. Language, we only do English at the moment. version. This is where you can go in, take a look at the serial number and the current version that you're at. I will tell you that we do update the firmware from time to time, so be sure to connect to your device from your app and update if needed. Sensor reset. So this is an interesting feature, and I would recommend that you don't reset the sensor unless instructed by somebody at our technical department to do so. But here's what this is about. We now live in a world where AI offers some really advanced deep learning opportunities. And so every time that your device recalibrates, or what people refer to as nuke, it's trying to recalibrate the device based on some differences that are occurring between environmental temperatures and the sensor settings based on a different temperature, a factory temperature. And every time your device recalibrates, this ATRIS device will remember those unique settings. And over time, all of that deep learning will learn more about your operating environment, and it'll result in the device not calibrating near as often as a device, say, from 2 years ago. So having all of that information memorized by your system is really helpful operationally. And if you reset this by selecting yes, it would wipe out that data. It's not a big deal. The device will just start relearning it all. But essentially, there's absolutely no reason to reset this unless instructed by us to do so. Okay, and you'll be doing all of your firmware updates via the phone app, but if you were going to do it based on your desktop, this is where you would do it after a download. Okay, so that is it. I know this was an extremely long video, but I hope you found it useful, and we certainly appreciate your business and want you to enjoy the ATRIS to its fullest. If you ever have any suggestions or comments, feel free to make them to us. We're always interested in hearing feedback on our products.